How candy bombs won the Cold War intro. It's the summer of 1948. Stalin slammed every gate, rail line, and canal into West Berlin, betting that 2.5 million cold-hungry Berliners will trade their freedom for a sack of potatoes. Then an exhausted cargo pilot decides on his own dime and against every rule to chuck a few chocolate bars out the window. That single ridiculous gesture snowballs into Operation Little Vittles, the sweetest PR stunt ever flown, and, believe it or not, the moment the Cold War quietly tips west. Section 1: A city that refused to die. Berlin in June is a chessboard with 4 players who've stopped pretending to like each other. The Soviets want the Allies gone and figure starvation is faster than tanks. So on the 24th, they flip the switch. No food, no coal, no medicine, 90 days of supplies left if you're an optimist. Mayor Ernst Reuter grabs the radio mic and pleads to the planet, look upon this city. Newspapers scream, it's the worst crisis since VJ Day. Washington and London have 2 bad options, cut and run, or feed 2 million people by air. They choose the impossible. 2 days later, 36 C-47s lumber down a runway with 80 tons of flour and powdered milk. 36 hours after that, they re-landing every 30 minutes through 3 narrow corridors. The Soviets can T-shoot at without looking like monsters. Flour and coal keep lungs moving and bread rising, but they don't win hearts. That job lands in the lap of a lanky kid from Utah who just wanted to see Berlin on a weekend pass. Section 2. Meet Gail Halvorsen. Accidental diplomat Gail Halvorsen is 27, broke, and still paying off flight school. He's piloting one of those C-47s when curiosity drags him to Tempelhof's perimeter fence. A dozen kids stare through the wino English. Big eyes, bigger hopes. Are you an American pilot? One asks. Gail nods. Got any gum? He digs into his pocket and finds 2 sticks of double mint, snaps them in half, and passes the pieces through the fence. The kids divide the gum like it's Holy Communion, making sure the smallest child gets the last shred. As Gail turns to leave, a boy tugs his sleeve. When will we have chocolate again? On the spot, Gail promises to wiggle his wings the next day and drop candy. 3 chocolate bars, 3 handkerchief parachutes, 1 flare chute. The first unofficial drop. 30 kids show up. The week after, it's 300. Berlin radio helpfully announces, watch the sky for the chocolate pilot. Halvorsen figures he's heading straight to a court-martial. Instead, his colonel grins and asks, got enough for the whole city, Captain? On the 3rd of August, Operation Little Vittles gets a desk, a budget, and a catchy name. Section 3. Dropping hope, 1 parachute at a time within weeks. America's candy giants open the floodgates. Hershey ships 50,000 bars a week. Wrigley mails crates of gum. Lifesavers pallets arrive by the Back in the States, kids sit in classrooms knotting parachutes first from silk scarves, then paper napkins when silk runs out. Each package carries a note. From your American friends, don't give up hope. By Christmas, little white parachutes are drifting over Berlin like slow-motion snow. Pilots waggle their wings, kids squeal, mothers hold toddlers up to catch the sky's gifts. Teenagers paint rooftops. Thank you, Uncle Wiggly Wings. Even the zoo's bears get sugar highs from the leftovers. The Soviets try jamming radio broadcasts describing the drops. Doesn't matter, every afternoon at 2 o'clock, kids line the streets, necks craned. One Berliner later says, we knew the planes would come because the sky smiled. Propaganda offices can't script that line, hearts to. Section 4. The logistics monster. Enter General William Tunner, the guy who once flew the hump over the Himalayas. He turns the Berlin Airlift into the most relentless conveyor belt aviation has ever seen. Planes take off every 3 minutes, stack like pancakes in the sky, land, unload, and sprint back to the runway crews, jogging beside refueling trucks like at ESA pit stop at Le Mans Peak Day. April 20th, 1949. 1,398 flights dump 12,941 tons of supplies in 24 hours. That's 1 landing every 62 seconds, and somehow, the candy keeps flying too. Section 5. When candy becomes strategy. State Department memos from late 48 practically giggle about the PR jackpot. Senator Henry Cabot Lodge calls the drops the cheapest psychological warfare we've ever run. The New York Times splashes photos of kids spelling thanks in parachutes. Gallup slips a question into its January 49 poll. Who do you trust, Morales or Soviet? 79% of West Berliners picked the Allies, up from 48% before the blockade. The candy didn't fill stomachs, it filled something harder to starve: hope, and with it, loyalty. By spring, the Soviets get the memo. Starvation lost to sugar. On the 12th of May 1949, the gates swing open. The airlift winds down 4 months later, tallying 2.3 million tons delivered, 101 Allied crew lost, 0 Berliners dead from hunger or cold. Section 6: Aftermath and the wall that took 12 years to build. The Berlin Airlift becomes the West's first clear Cold War win. More importantly, it turns yesterday's enemies into tomorrow's partners. NATO forms the next year. West Germany the year after. Halvorsen goes home a reluctant celebrity. In 1970 he returns to Berlin now as commander of Tempelhof, meets the grandkids of the kids who once caught his chocolate. The old fence still stands, graffiti fresh. Donker, Uncle Wiggly Wings. When the wall goes up in 1961, Berliners who refused to kneel in 1948 refuse again. They fly kites over the barbed wire, some with candy attached. The gesture is tiny, but it echoes the same message. Roads can be cut, hope can't. Mid-roll CTA. If stories like this, the kind where kindness hijacks geopolitics, are your jam, hit subscribe. It actually helps the channel more than you think, and we've got more Cold War rabbit holes lined up. Section 7: Legacy. In Arapa Halvorsen's original parachutes sit in the Smithsonian and the Allied Museum in Berlin. Every anniversary, Hershey, M&Ms, and the rest still send a crate to Tempelhof. Kids scramble for it, only now they film it for TikTok. A 1998 survey asked Berliners who grew up in the blockade what single memory defined the Allied occupation. 42% picked the candy drops beating out Marshall Plan aid, jazz clubs, even Elvis. In 2019, the last surviving candy bomber, Colonel Gail Halvorsen, flies over Berlin again. Age 98. He wiggles the wings of a restored C-47. 1,000 parachutes open beneath him. None carry chocolate, just paper notes from today's Berlin kids. We still believe in the sky. Conclusion. So yeah, candy bombs won the Cold War. Not by themselves, not with magic, but in the only way hearts and minds are ever truly won: one tiny, unauthorized act of kindness multiplied by thousands. The Soviets tried to starve a city. One pilot answered with sugar. Berlin chose the side that fed its children. And that, in the end, is how the West kept Berlin and maybe all of us free.